All right, we need to talk about something that's been flying under the radar while the legal world focuses on obstruction charges and recorded phone calls. There's a new storm brewing, and this one involves billions of dollars, foreign nations, and questions that go straight to the heart of presidential accountability. I'm talking about the Qatar deal, the $340 million gift that has suddenly become the center of a new legal firestorm. And this time, it's not just about what Trump said. It's about what he took, what he promised in return, and whether the Constitution itself has been violated in ways that could reshape the presidency forever. Let me take you through exactly what's happening, because this isn't just another controversy. This is a constitutional crisis with real legal exposure. And it's all connected to a single Boeing 747 aircraft, a plane that was gifted to the United States by the Qatari government, a plane that Trump is now using as Air Force One. And a plane that has sparked a bipartisan firestorm of criticism, legal challenges, and questions about whether the president has crossed a line that no president should ever cross. Here's the backstory. Earlier this year, the Pentagon announced that the United States had accepted a Boeing 747 aircraft as a gift from Qatar. The plane, valued at approximately $400 million, was intended to serve as a temporary Air Force One, while Boeing worked on the two new presidential aircraft that were originally commissioned during Trump's first term. On the surface, it seemed like a generous offer, a gift from a strategic ally, a way to save taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Trump himself framed it exactly that way. He said, "Why should our military, and therefore our taxpayers, be forced to pay hundreds of millions of dollars when they can get it for free?" But here's the problem. The Constitution's Foreign Emoluments Clause is very clear. No person holding any office of profit or trust under the United States shall, without the consent of Congress, accept any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. That clause was written by the Founding Fathers specifically to prevent foreign governments from currying favor with American officials through gifts and payments. It's one of the oldest anti-corruption provisions in the Constitution, and it's now at the center of a legal battle that could redefine the limits of presidential power. The Qatar deal has raised a host of legal questions. First, did Trump personally benefit from the gift? The administration has argued that the plane was given to the United States Air Force, not to Trump personally. But that argument is wearing thin, because according to multiple reports, the plane is intended to be transferred to Trump's Presidential Library Foundation after he leaves office. That means Trump would personally benefit from a foreign government's gift, a gift worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That's a direct violation of the Emoluments Clause, plain and simple. Second, what did the United States give Qatar in return? This is where things get really interesting, because around the time the plane was accepted, the Trump administration issued an executive order providing Qatar with an unprecedented U.S. security guarantee. The order states that it is the policy of the United States to guarantee the security and territorial integrity of the state of Qatar against external attack. It further provides that the United States shall regard any armed attack on the territory, sovereignty, or critical infrastructure of the state of Qatar as a threat to the peace and security of the United States. That's essentially a mutual defense commitment, the kind normally reserved for formal treaties, the kind that usually requires Senate approval. But in this case, it was done through an executive order, a unilateral action by the president, without congressional consultation, without debate, without approval. Now let's think about the timing. The plane was accepted in early 2025. The executive order providing the security guarantee was issued in April 2026. But here's the crucial detail. The security guarantee was issued shortly after Israel launched airstrikes against Hamas officials meeting in Doha. Those strikes created significant anxiety in Qatar and among other U.S. partners in the region. They raised serious questions about the reliability of the U.S. security umbrella. Qatar's response was swift. They suspended their role as mediator between Israel and Hamas. They dispatched their prime minister to Washington for consultations. They insisted on assurances from the United States that Israel would not attack again. And they got those assurances, along with a security guarantee that goes far beyond anything the U.S. has ever provided to a Gulf state. The guarantee, according to legal experts, is unprecedented in the region and the first such commitment since the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty of 1960. Now, I want you to connect the dots here. Qatar gives the United States a $400 million plane. The president uses that plane to travel to the NATO summit in Turkey. Then, when Qatar faces a security threat, the president issues an executive order promising to defend Qatar against external attack. A promise that, in practice, could commit American military forces to a foreign conflict. A promise made without congressional approval. A promise that looks a lot like a quid pro quo. The plane for the security guarantee. The gift for the protection. The foreign policy decision driven by personal benefit rather than national interest. And the financial entanglements go even deeper. According to Trump's latest financial disclosure, which runs to nearly 1,000 pages, overseas real estate licensing income nearly doubled to $59 million in 2025. That's up from $34 million in 2024. And significantly, the disclosure lists new developments in Qatar and Romania that weren't there before the Trump Organization now has at least 15 real estate ventures in foreign countries worth about $1 million or more in license fee income each year. These ventures are in India, Oman, Philippines, Qatar, Romania, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Vietnam. And they're all generating income for the president. Income from foreign countries. Income that raises profound questions about conflicts of interest and foreign influence. The total financial picture is staggering. Reports indicate that Trump's businesses generated over $2 billion in total income in 2025. That's up from about $622 million in 2024. And of that, foreign entities, particularly from the Middle East, paid approximately $300 million to Trump's businesses in the last year. That's not small money. That's influence money. That's the kind of money that creates the appearance, if not the reality, of foreign governments seeking to buy favor with the American president. Now, let's talk about the legal exposure here. The Emoluments Clause has been the subject of multiple lawsuits during Trump's first term. In 2017, nearly 200 Democratic lawmakers sued Trump over foreign money flowing into his global business empire. The lawsuit alleged that Trump was violating the Constitution by accepting payments from foreign governments through his commercial establishments. The Department of Justice, under Trump, adopted what critics called a narrow interpretation of the clause, arguing that it wasn't intended to prevent normal business transactions like hotel payments and real estate deals. That interpretation, however, contradicted more than 50 opinions issued by the department over 150 years, all of which took a much broader view of the clause's protections. The department had historically been vigilant in safeguarding our republic from potentially corrupt foreign government influence. But in the Trump era, according to critics, the department has chosen to protect the personal financial interests of Donald Trump instead of the institutional interests of the United States. The Qatar deal is different from the earlier lawsuits. It's not about hotel payments or real estate transactions. It's about a direct gift from a foreign government, a gift worth $400 million, a gift that the president is using personally, a gift that is allegedly going to be transferred to his presidential library. A gift that was followed by a major policy concession. That's a much clearer violation of the Emoluments Clause than anything that's been litigated before, and the response from critics has been fierce. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer has called the deal a stain on the office of the presidency and argued that it apparently includes a corrupt plot for Donald Trump to keep the plane at his library after leaving office. California Governor Gavin Newsom has taken to calling the aircraft Air Fraud 1 and described Trump as the most corrupt president in American history. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer also called the jet a national security nightmare and accused Trump of shameless self-enrichment at taxpayers' expense. And it's not just Democrats who are concerned. The deal has raised bipartisan controversy, which has escalated into a constitutional and political battle. Senator Tammy Duckworth, a Democrat from Illinois, has pointed out another problem. She argued that, far from saving money, this unconstitutional action will not only cost our nation its dignity, but it will force taxpayers to waste over $1 billion in taxpayer dollars to overhaul this particular aircraft when we currently have not one, but two fully operational and fully capable Air Force One aircraft. Aviation experts agree. They note that accepting the 13-year-old jet will likely cost U.S. taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars over time, noting that refurbishing the commercial plane would exceed its current value. installing the necessary security systems and upgrades, including the ability to withstand an electromagnetic pulse from a nuclear blast and to refuel mid-flight, could push the project into the 2030s. The idea, according to experts, made no financial or practical sense. But perhaps the most troubling aspect of this story is what it reveals about the erosion of traditional safeguards. The security guarantee to Qatar was provided through an executive order, not a treaty. That means it was not submitted to the Senate for advice and consent. It was not debated. It was not approved by Congress. It was simply issued by the president. And that raises fundamental questions about the separation of powers and the role of Congress in foreign policy. Legal experts argue that this is contrary to the consistent past practice of submitting such commitments to the Senate as a treaty for its advice and consent. And it ignores the Senate's long-held view that a promise to assist a foreign country, government, or people by the use of the armed forces can only be made by means of a treaty, statute, or concurrent resolution. The justification for bypassing Congress was practical. A treaty would have taken too long. And Qatar's complicated history, including its funding of Hamas-led Gaza, accusations of financing terrorists, claims of human rights abuses, and relatively close relations with Iran, would have made it difficult to secure the necessary votes in the Senate. So the administration took a shortcut that effectively unilaterally committed the United States to defending a foreign nation. A shortcut that may be unconstitutional. A shortcut that, if successful, could be used by future presidents to make similar commitments without congressional oversight. Now, let's talk about the latest developments, because this story is still unfolding. The New York Times recently published a series of reports on security shortcomings of the Qatari-donated jet. The reports cited multiple officials briefed on how the jet was retrofitted for presidential use, and the administration's response was swift and aggressive. On July 10th, Manhattan, U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton issued subpoenas to 5 Times journalists, ordering them to testify before a federal grand jury on July 15 in regard to an alleged violation of federal criminal law. Times executive editor Joe Kahn said in an internal email that the reporters were issued subpoenas after they reported on security shortcomings of the Qatari-donated jet that forced the president to use an older government plane for his recent international travel. The Times top lawyer called the subpoenas a brazen attempt to intimidate journalists and vowed to fight them. The Justice Department would not confirm or deny the subpoenas, but told Reuters it was targeting leakers of classified information, not journalists. This is a significant escalation. The administration is now using the power of the federal government to go after reporters who are doing their job, reporting on a matter of public concern. A matter that goes to the heart of presidential accountability. Let me be clear about what's at stake here. This is not just about a plane. It's not just about a security guarantee. It's about the fundamental principle that no one is above the law, including the president, including a former president, including someone with immense power and influence. The Emoluments Clause was written to prevent foreign governments from buying influence with American officials. And that's exactly what appears to have happened here. A foreign government gave the president a gift worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And in return, the president gave that government an unprecedented security commitment, a commitment that could drag the United States into a foreign conflict, a commitment made without congressional approval, a commitment that looks a lot like a quid pro quo. The defense, of course, is going to argue that there's nothing improper here. They'll say the plane was a gift to the United States Air Force, not to Trump personally. They'll say the security guarantee was in the national interest. They'll say Qatar is a strategic ally and the guarantee is consistent with longstanding U.S. policy. And to some extent, those arguments have merit. Qatar is an important diplomatic and security partner for the United States in the Middle East and beyond. It has served as an interlocutor between the United States and its adversaries in the region, including with the Taliban, Iran, and Hamas. It hosts the Al Udeid Air Base, which serves as the regional headquarters for the U.S. Central Command. It has invested more than $8 billion in the facility since 2003. It is the second largest partner in the United States foreign military sales program, with $26 billion in active sales. So the relationship is real. The strategic interests are real. The security guarantee wasn't entirely out of left field, but the timing is problematic. The gift was accepted in early 2025. The security guarantee was issued in April 2026. And in between, Israel attacked Qatar. Qatar suspended its mediation role. Qatar demanded assurances, and the United States provided those assurances, along with a guarantee that goes far beyond anything that has ever been provided to a Gulf state. It looks like Qatar got what it wanted in exchange for the plane, and Trump got what he wanted in exchange for the guarantee. That's the quid pro quo. That's the corruption. That's the violation of the Emoluments Clause. And let's not forget the broader pattern. The financial disclosure shows that Trump's income from foreign real estate licensing deals nearly doubled in 2025. New deals in Qatar and Romania were announced. Foreign entities from the Middle East paid approximately $300 million to Trump's businesses. Trump's crypto earnings exceeded $1 billion. And all of this happened while he was in office, while he was making foreign policy decisions, while he was negotiating with foreign leaders, while he was issuing executive orders that could benefit foreign nations. The conflicts of interest are staggering. The potential for corruption is immense. And the American people have no way of knowing whether the president is acting in the national interest or advancing his personal financial interests. That's not how democracy is supposed to work. That's not how the presidency is supposed to function. And that's why this story matters so much. Now, let's talk about what comes next, because this is not going away. The legal challenges are already being prepared. The subpoenas to the Times journalists are likely to be litigated. The House and Senate Democrats are going to continue pushing for investigations and legislation. And the courts are going to have to weigh in on the constitutionality of all of this. The Foreign Emoluments Clause has been the subject of litigation before, but the Qatar deal presents a much clearer violation than anything that's been litigated in the past. A direct gift from a foreign government, a gift used personally by the president, a gift that was followed by a major policy concession. That's the kind of case that even a conservative Supreme Court might find difficult to dismiss. But here's the thing. Even if the courts rule against Trump, even if the Emoluments Clause is enforced, the damage may already be done. The precedent has been set. The pattern has been established. Foreign governments now know that they can buy influence with the American president through gifts and business deals. They know that the traditional safeguards, the Department of Justice opinions, the congressional oversight, the Emoluments Clause itself may not be enough to stop them. And that's a dangerous precedent. That's a precedent that could undermine the integrity of the presidency for generations to come. I want to leave you with this. The Qatar deal is not just about Trump. It's about the future of the presidency. It's about whether foreign governments can buy influence with American officials. It's about whether the Constitution's anti-corruption provisions will be enforced. It's about whether anyone is above the law. And the answer to that question will have profound implications for American democracy. If Trump gets away with this, if he's allowed to accept a $400 million gift from a foreign government and give that government an unprecedented security guarantee in return, then the Emoluments Clause is effectively dead. And foreign governments will have a clear message. You can buy the American president. It just takes a few $100 million. That's not the country the founding fathers envisioned. That's not the country we should be. And that's why this matters so much. That's why we need to watch this closely. That's why we need to hold our leaders accountable. I'm going to be covering every development in this story, every filing, every hearing, every legal challenge, because this is going to be a defining moment for the presidency. And you need to understand what's at stake. The plane, the security guarantee, the financial disclosures, the subpoenas. It's all connected. And it's all part of a pattern that goes to the heart of presidential accountability. So keep watching, keep paying attention, and I'll keep breaking it down for you. Because this is history, this is happening right now, and you need to understand it. Thanks for listening, thanks for engaging, and I'll see you in the next update.